Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fathoms Deep, a Black Sails podcast from Common Room Radio. I'm Liz Stevens.
I'm Daphne Olive, and to be honest, I'm a tiny bit confused because I'm here with Liz, Queen of Nassau, but also with Jessica Parker Kennedy, Queen of Nassau.
Definitely, I think I can cede my crown today to the actual Queen of Nassau. That's just my Twitter handle because I'm in adoration of Max. So, yeah, for today, we're in the presence of the actual Queen, I think.
So, welcome.
As soon as we're done, I'm handing it right back to you.
Yes.
You've earned it.
Oh, a coronation. I like that.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
Suits both of you well, and I'm just happy to be here, to be honest. So, Jessica, just our listeners know this. I am gigantic fan of Max. I talk about it a lot.
So cool.
And I want to
kind of an evangelist, really. An evangelist of Max, I would say. Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Max?
Very serious.
Also, that is also true. I've got to say that Adele's speech in episode 8 was like that was the moment where I pretty much was like, hello, she just said the words that have been in my head throughout, and this is how I feel.
Yeah, she killed that speech.
God.
Killed it. Like when I watched it a couple weeks ago, I was just like, oh my God, she's so brilliant. You know, it was such a small part that it was so cool that she ended up, being a reoccurring and I so apropos her being able, like, as a character that has, those great little quips that come in now and then. It was so nice to see her in this grounded state, just like take action and find her footing. And of all the people to like tell off, I love that it was great. I was so proud of her, and she was so excited and nervous about doing that, and she just slayed it.
She really did. She destroyed it.
Yeah, we loved how that character grew because we always liked Adele too. We just
we did from the beginning.
Yeah, just joked about her from the beginning and just enjoyed every time she was on screen. Just enjoyed the presence that she brought on.
Totally, because the show's so heavy in so many ways, and yet she's this lightness that comes with it. When she's so enjoyable to watch, and she's someone that like her facial expressions are hilarious and so telling, and she can do the littlest things and be so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, we have gifs of much of it.
We have this alternate universe where she and Featherstone are running like a bed and breakfast somewhere. And,
Oh, right. Wait, was that Lauren's idea? I don't remember. In our season 3 wrap.
Yeah, that was Lauren Sarner's.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Total.
Right?
Pretty adorable. Yep.
Just TV couple.
Yes. Oh my God. Love them so much. But the question I wanted to start with, Grandma Guthrie. Max and Grandma Guthrie.
Starting with Grandma Guthrie.
I am starting with Grandma
Guthrie.
Like Adele's speech, I just felt I have all sorts of feelings about it, but I wanted to hear like what was your favorite part of Max and Grandma Guthrie meeting, and then maybe we'll have more questions about it. But I feel like the Grandma Guthrie meeting was kind of bringing so many, if not all, of the threads of Max's story together in one place.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel weirdly nervous talking to you guys because I feel like you know the show like so much better than I know the show. And I feel like I just want to sit here and
frankly,
listen.
that's possible.
You have to say about the show. But I mean, I felt that Grandma Guthrie, I love that that's what you call her.
That is what we call her.
Love that. Guthrie Gams Guthrie.
Gams Guthrie.
Gam
girl name right there.
I think,
Gam. I think that she's a woman that Max can finally relate to.
Mm-hmm.
I think she sees herself very much in her and what she could become. Brilliant the way that she really takes care of everything behind the scenes in that sort of sneaky way that women often have to do and shouldn't have to do. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is that, it's finally a woman that has her 2 feet so deeply rooted in the ground. And I think that's what Max has been looking for because she doesn't get that from Bonnie and she doesn't get that from Eleanor. So there's a stability with this person, and I think she looks up to her in a lot of ways. I think it's exciting for her to meet someone like that, a woman with so much power and grace and dignity and brains, someone who really, really thinks before every single thing they do. Yeah, she's really quite an extraordinary character. Without sounding cliche, it's a breath of fresh air for Max to meet a woman like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it harkened back to what Max had said about you have to change from the inside. Like if you want to change civilization, you have to do it from the inside. And so to see someone who was doing that, who had made a life doing that, I think was really formative. And I was so surprised, though, that Max so quickly turned down that offer. Like I wouldn't say I expected. I wasn't certain what choice she was going to make when shown the banker downstairs or whatever it was. But the fact that it happened so quickly. Can you maybe talk to us about that? Why that decision was so easy for Max to make?
I mean, I literally have no idea. It's really a question for John and Robert, why they wrote it that way.
I suppose so. Okay,
yeah. But I think, when you kind of wake up and something is clear all of a sudden. Yeah. That you've been mulling over for so long. Yeah. So I think that's something that happened. I think finally when being presented with something that she thought she wanted for so long, there was a realization of, I don't really want this. And I don't think she would have necessarily come to that conclusion if she hadn't been in a place where it had actually been presented to her. But it's wild. I mean, I think it was beautiful. There was parts of me as a viewer that was like, is this really what you want to do? Mm-hmm. I felt everything she was giving up, know? And there's a part of me that's like, because I want her to be powerful and I want her to be strong. And, but that's the biggest difference, I think, between maybe her and Eleanor, Max and Eleanor in a way, is that, Max is able to see such a perspective, and futurize a little bit in a way that I don't think Eleanor can. I think Eleanor works from a different space. Right. So I understand why she did it, but it was still hard as the actor playing it, even because I'm a Libra, so I'm very much like, this is why it would be good, but this is why it wouldn't be. Like, it's not that I didn't want her to be with Bonnie. It's a really hard choice to make, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I can tell you some of my perspective about it. You'd like to hear. This was something I was very invested in and waiting for, and it was like one of the moments that threw me for an emotional loop, which I really enjoy when the show does that, when it makes me want things I don't think I want.
Just every episode, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. That's true. But yeah,
watching the right show,
right? Well, I feel like Max's backstory is a really big deal, obviously, and I have this theory, which I guess I really actually have now that we're almost at the end. Like this seems to have played out that characters have backstories that are motivating them. Right. Mm-hmm. And so like with Max, you see her motivation for a long time, and then the backstory gives it meaning.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the meeting Grandma Guthrie was like, Max was finally inside of a parlor. She wasn't outside the window anymore. She was on the inside. So part of you is really happy for Max. But I've always had this theory that what each character needs to actually be fulfilled as a person is to set aside the trauma of their backstory that has been motivating them.
Yeah.
And so I had been waiting for Max to turn away from the things that have motivated her. Yeah. And the part that was surprising for me was when they're standing up and looking down at that potential husband. Part of me was just like, even though I had spent, a whole season and a half waiting for Max to let go, I was like, no, don't let go. Get that thing, get that power. Yes. So it was really interesting for me. And at the same time, the conversation that you had with Clara at the end is just, oh my God.
I know. It was really weird when I was so affected by that speech that I give to her. I weirdly, every time I read it, it felt like a eulogy. And I don't know why. And I couldn't stop crying during every rehearsal. I was sobbing. And then on the day I was like, Jess, you can't be sobbing through this entire thing. But it felt, the way it was, I don't know why. I felt like I was saying kind of, I think, goodbye to Max in a way. and kind of goodbye to Anne, because I was saying, look, this, I don't know what you're going to say after this. I'm putting it all on the line, and this may be the end of the end. But this is what I have to tell you. I have nothing left. And it was sort of like the last speech. So it was super emotional that day. It was really, really difficult. And all of our rehearsals going up to it. Our amazing director, Uda, was so great in rehearsals, because she was like, it's just so great. I want to say, I don't want to I hate rehearsing, and Uda was great. I hate it. And Uda was great, because she was like, I don't want to over rehearse this. It's there. It's ready. Like, it's so ready to come out, and I just don't want to miss that on the day. And it was so great. So we just kind of kept it in, because I was like, it was like always up to like, up to here, like that awful like feeling in your throat. And that's where that kind of speech just resonated with me. I just thought it was so beautifully written. I was so crazy about it. And what you were saying about being on the outside looking in, I think it's that. It's like when I was in high school, I wanted to be friends with the cool kids so badly. And when I became friends with the cool kids, I actually really realized that like it was kind of boring.
Yep.
Like, because they were so busy being cool that like they didn't actually have any fun.
Right.
And or their version of fun wasn't what my version of fun with my friends was. So I think there's an element of that too. I think it's like Max sees that if she is going to be in this in crowd and have this future for herself, she doesn't get to really be herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that I think is everything for her. And I think back to your question, why she makes that decision so quickly. I mean, I don't think she expected that. I think she thought she could do it in sort of this way with honor, and always like her name is what makes her this steady thing. And I think she finds out that, well, she would be utterly dishonest living that life. And so I think it's like, stops her there. And I think another thing too, now that we're just chatting and now I'm just going on and on and on.
That's what you're here. That's what we want you to do.
This is what we love. You're doing the thing. Yep.
It's so easy with you guys to mull this over and think about it. I think too, that time when Eleanor, in season 1, when Eleanor and Max were together, and Max is like, come away with me. Mm-hmm. And Eleanor says, I'm here. This is more important to me. And how grossly heartbreaking that was for Max. And that wall gets built after that. And Max doesn't really show much vulnerability after that until, really this season when she's with Anne. I think it kind of mirrors that a little bit. It's her way of, again, but in a different way, saying to this person kind of, she's not saying, come away with me. She's not saying do that, but she's allowed herself to be vulnerable for the first time since season 1. And I fought for her vulnerability every episode. Every episode I was like, please, 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 can like she shows something that this is difficult, and she does in really subtle ways. But
no,
John
you did it in really subtle ways throughout.
I really tried to put that in there, because John and Dan and Robert was like, we just can't. Like, that wall is so built up, and it's so nice to finally see that part of Max from season 1 come back a little bit, and it just, it makes me really happy, and it's beautiful.
Although the wall itself is showing, I mean, in my eyes, the wall that was there for someone who's paying attention was always the sign of the vulnerability, like the fact that Max,
she wouldn't need it. Exactly. She wasn't as vulnerable as she was.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, that's the thing, is you did the thing in the very beginning before any of the other characters did. You did the thing of being like, okay, I'm laying it all out. I'm completely at your mercy. So the only response to that is then to close up completely.
It's such a good point. And that's not a perspective that I thought either, but you're right. Like, that wall is it's very telling. It's
exactly.
very
exactly. Yeah. I mean, think about that compared to Jack, who's like really good at showing emotion in the weirdest ways, but he's really emotional all the time.
He is very, very much so. He's so everything's so visceral for him.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's right there. A great comparison. And then Anne somewhere in between. That Anne, like, we don't see any emotion in the beginning, and then she has her breakdown. Yeah. And then,
oh God, all of that was so beautiful.
I know, it's such a fascinating character for her to play, because there's just like layers upon layers upon layers in that character.
Oh, Max, I'm just so pleased. Ultimately, I'm really, really happy that Max got to do that thing.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
And
I'm happy for her.
Yeah, and they did take, I mean, you all took her in a pretty sad direction. I mean, once she became Eleanor, once she, it kind of sucked.
Yeah, and it wasn't what she was expecting, at all.
Right.
It's much harder, much more difficult. And again, she had to kind of lose part of herself. And as soon as that happened, like she gives that whole speech in, at season 3 about the chair, and the fucking,
The
whole
fucking
thing,
chair.
and fucking chair. Yeah, it wasn't it's not an easy, I want to say 4 years, but it wasn't 4 years, but it wasn't an easy time for her.
Right.
There's a lot of development and growing up, and it's cool because you kind of see her. I just think the character has changed so dramatically from season 1 to season 4. It's so interesting watching it, and I think she's really kind of fleshed out now in a way that makes a lot of sense. I said in another interview I did that I feel like I want to call her and ask her for advice sometimes.
For real, I think everyone should call and ask her for advice.
Yeah, I really, really do. Like, she's the one person in the show that you could be like, wait, what would Max do?
Yeah.
And you would feel like it's probably going to work out for her,
That's something I've been promoting for all of the characters to do.
Just ask Max what to do. Everyone should be wearing the bracelets that say WWMD.
No joke. No, for real. I don't remember which. I think it might. I don't know. It was some episode not so long ago where I was like, seriously, everyone just needs to start saying, how would Max react to this? What would Max? I think I did say, what would Max do?
Max, she's the wisest. She's the wisest. It's not that every decision is perfect. It's just she has this sort of, like I said before, she has a perspective that I think is important to have.
Well, and so this gets into my okay, Dee, this is it. I'm starting to do the thing. We have a few listeners who have been waiting for me to do my unified Max theory, so I am going to do a little bit. Let me throw some out there. So one of my things that I think is so interesting about Max is, other than I adore Max and I adore your performance of Max, but other than that, I think on the structure of the story, I believe that Max parallels the most characters, if not all of the characters at some point. Like, there are a lot of parallels that happen between characters in the story at different points. And some of Max's are obvious. Like when Anne Bonny had her breakdown, there are just so many obvious parallels that showed why Max could be the person she could be for Anne at that moment. But I think that Max really has moments where she parallels everyone else. And for me, the most interesting ones, the most obvious one is Silver, right? Because Max and Silver, and that's one of the things in the big rewatch I want to do is to actually just y'all don't have that many scenes together, but they're all super significant.
They are. Yeah, they're really great.
Yeah.
I think that the text of the story makes clear lines between Max and Silver and also Max and Vane. And that especially in 407, that happens when Max says the thing about I will not be a slave and I will not have slaves, or however she said it,
right?
Which is so similar to what Vane, the whole argument Vane had with Jack in general, but also with what Vane said in his manifesto to Eleanor. So again, I do think that Max has parallels with all of the characters, but I think Silver and Vane is particularly interesting because I think you could see those two as the extreme opposites of each other. Yeah. That Vane, right? That Vane has this kind of moral purity, even though it's not exactly my morals, but it's still a moral purity. And, and Silver,
he has a code.
Right. Silver, more obviously like Max, is someone who reads people and is, kind of always working angles and stuff like that.
I love that. That's amazing. I never thought about that. And that makes total and complete and utter sense, because you're absolutely right. There's a tremendous amount of working with Max and Silver together. The scenes are powerful because there is that similarity there. You want them to partner up so bad. Yes. If they partnered up, these huge things would happen. One of our from Stars, Marta Fernandez, was always like, well, I just want them to get together. They'd be the power couple of the show.
Yep.
And very it makes true. It's very true, because they're in a lot of ways, not that I want to like toot Max's horn, but it's true. She like her and Silver, I think, are the smartest in terms of like they're the most clever.
No, Max is actually the smartest.
I kind of feel.
Oh no, I don't think there's any doubt.
But I mean, in terms of the way that Silver can like twist a situation, it's pretty extraordinary. Like it rivals almost that of Max, or very, very similar. You know, and you're absolutely right about Vane. I mean, and there's a moral compass. It's so interesting that you talk about that, because there is such a moral compass in Vane and in Max that I think the other characters just don't have. And Vane's such a bad guy in the beginning. Like, you want to hate him, and you find yourself like really liking him. You can't. And by the time that he gets executed, you're like, oh, no. Like, but Vane is the worst. But you know, and
I always liked Vane from the beginning, though. I liked him from moment one. I was, and not many people do. So I was one of the rare ones, but I liked him from moment one.
It's kudos to Zach too, because Zach has a real personality where I always tease him and say that he's like a pit bull puppy, you know. He's like ripping stuff up, and he's like getting into shit when you've been like, I told you not to get into that. He's like, not literally, but like, you know, he's peeing where he's not supposed to pee, and like he's just, you know, but he's so like, he's a puppy, and he's a pit bull puppy, and he's so excited, and he's so enthusiastic, and you love him, and so I think Zach's personality, which is very much that, kind of infused that into Vane in a way, because Zach can like be the most ridiculous person in the world, and you love him unconditionally for that. And Vane, you kind of feel the same way. And I really think that like because you know, originally Luke Arnold was supposed to be Vane, and it just wouldn't have been the same character at all. Like, it needed to be Zach playing that. To I think it's the fact that it's the way it was written, but it was really very much the way Zach played it, and Zach's just real essence that made Vane really likable.
Right.
Well, and that's even something that we talked to John about, that this show, perhaps more than others, the actors brought so much to the characters that really kind of played into the way that they were written later on in the show, because they embodied the characters so beautifully that you had to take into account the actor's portrayal even more than usual as you were writing out the story, because they just brought in new life and new motivations, and Vane is a perfect example of that, I think.
It's really cool, because I always wondered what it would be like to be on a show for more than one season or more than a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And readers go, well, how would Jess do this? Oh, I can write for that because I know how she would, you know.
Yes.
It's really special because you can feel that start to happen. And it's just a really beautiful symbiotic, I guess, experience between writer and actor. And, you know, these people that I had never even had the opportunity to meet or have met really briefly in the writer's room were like thinking about that, going, well, how would Jess? It's just a really cool. I feel really lucky to have been able to be a part of that.
Which were your favorite scenes, or your I don't know how to ask exactly, but were there those particular, like, whether it's a shouting match or the softer and more romantic scenes, or the Max on her own scenes, were there ones where when you got the script in your hand, you're like, yes, this is the thing I want Max to do, or even just as an actor that you were most excited to sink your teeth into?
I think every time I got this script, I was just desperately trying to keep up and go like, oh my God, what is happening in the storyline now? What's going on with different characters? Scenes that I loved playing. I love scenes with Eleanor and Max when they're figuring out, when there's so much tension, but they're figuring out how to work together. I love those. There's a scene, I think it's in season 2, when we're in the brothel, and I can't even remember what it's about, but Eleanor goes, how did they find this out? And I said, well, I told them.
Oh, I love that. Right. That was with Ned Lowe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we had a great time doing that, because, you know, when you really love another actor and you trust another actor, you can be super nasty to them, and you have the freedom to do that. And I liked all that. I liked when we were trying to figure out where the tension of where we were together. One of my favorite scenes. I love the scene with Toby Schmitz when I tell him to get his fucking house in order. I love that.
Yes. Oh my God, that's a great scene.
And I love the scene with Berenger where he's screaming in my face. and I am talking over him. That was so hard on the day to get that right. And I was so worried about it. And when I saw it, I was like, it was one of those like very rare moments, I think, that for the actors just don't really have, when you can really step back and watch two characters. And I was really like, I got goosebumps and I got like welled up because I was watching this woman try to defend herself with this piece of shit screaming in her face, and how she held her ground and just spoke through him the entire time. And it was really, really cool. Yeah, it was just one of those things that I was like, oh my God, that is an extraordinary scene. Oh, I'm in that scene. Oh,
oh wait, I killed it in that scene. No.
Yeah,
nailed it.
You know, as like actors were deeply insecure and incredibly self-critical, especially about our performances, and so it was really nice to have a moment like that. Be like, wow, I loved shooting that, and I loved how that turned out so much.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, that was amazing, because I think that is one of those moments where I really adore these small mannerisms that you had for Max, where she was, if you just looked at it quickly, you would be like, oh, she's totally, she's an ice queen and she has no emotions. But you always manage to put these things in that defy that. And the way you were breathing there, like your whole body's still, but you could see your breathing. And it was like, it just rang so true as a person who is trying to be tough as nails, but is actually freaking out inside. One of my other favorite, I think Liz brought it up, was in God, I'm usually good at remembering episode numbers. Okay. The Spanish invasion episode.
Every time I'm like, you have to break that down for me anyway. So.
It's my job. When you went to the beach and Jack was there, and so both of you have like amazing mannerisms there. Like he has his little eyebrow, his little eyebrow, right? The hand flick, incredible. Like Max is so clearly trying to not be vulnerable to Jack in that moment, and that little hand motion just gave it all away.
Oh, I'm so glad you caught that. That's thing ever. That's so cool. Wow. That's awesome.
No, lots of our listeners did too. I mean, that was something that a lot of we've been doing live tweets of every episode. Yeah.
Oh, rad. Oh my gosh, guys, that's so cool. Yeah, that scene was awesome to do. Working with Toby Schmitz is like honestly a dream come true, because he's so bloody brilliant, and I really feel like he was born to play Jack Rackham in Black Sails, and I never thought that him and I would get to work together. In season 1, I was like, oh, I hope I get to work with Toby, thinking I wouldn't, and then having consistently worked with him over the season so much, it kept everything so fun, because the dynamic between those two is just bizarre and hilarious and tense and sad, and I would have been devastated if I didn't get to work with him in the way that I got to work with him. I just was luckier and luckier and luckier all the time, because he's a genius, and he's so in character all the time, and he never forgets a line, so rarely. So he's constantly so in the moment when you're with him that he's extraordinary to work with. I think I really think he's a genius. I really do.
We're inclined to agree. We actually got to see him in the present on Broadway, which was
so did I. You did?
Yeah,
that's so great that you saw it. Wasn't that unbelievable?
Oh my God.
It was unbelievable. Yeah, it was a great moment for us too, because we then got to go out for drinks with them and actually hang out, which was pretty. Yeah,
that's so cool. Was
pretty.
Kate?
Oh no,
I know, right? That was even. I know, us too, but. Say she was close enough to me in the theater that had she deigned to do so, she could spit at me or something, and felt it.
That's true. We would have felt her spit, but no, we didn't go for drinks with her. Although my husband was telling everyone like, "Oh, Daphne's up in New York right now," and she
having drinks.
having drinks with Toby and Kate Blanchett.
Right, bonding, shopping, doing all this with
right. Pedicures.
Of course. Yeah, she's my favorite female actor ever. So to see her on the theater and see her that performance is so vulnerable and insane, and I don't know how she does that every night. I have no idea. It's some kind of crazy masterclass, and watching Toby and getting really mad when Toby would leave and be like, "No, more Toby." More
exactly.
Toby.
I know. Yes, bring him back on screen.
I know. I felt the same way. I was like, yeah, I think we were all like a little bit focused differently than most of the audience because I'm just like, where's Toby? Okay, I'm watching Toby now.
Yes. That's our guy.
I feel like Toby's presence, though, this could be biased because I am obsessed with him as a person. I think he really is a scene stealer.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of ways, like his presence on stage, and yeah, like I said, it's maybe because I know him so well. I have a really different perspective, but I just was like, you shine, man. Like you just shine and shine and shine over everyone. And I thought everyone like genuinely was so extraordinary in that. I just wanted, because I love Toby and I wanted more Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about in this scene just a couple of episodes ago. I don't remember which episode, but where Mapleton is saying, "You'll never believe what just walked in." And he's in the background and he's all blurred out. And all you see is him put his legs down to move up. And like, if you don't know at that point that that's Jack Rackham, just because of the way that Toby moves, the way he inhabits this character and embodies this character, then you're not paying attention. Like, there's no way you can't know that's him.
Oh, every little finger wiggle and like the way he uses his fan and like, oh no, that's not in the show. But Toby, Toby carries this. They've given, it's so hot in South Africa in those costumes, and they gave all of us just like old school fans because they work
Love
the best.
Those. I buy those in the summer. So.
Totally. And for whatever reason, the one they gave Toby is this black lace fan.
Oh my God. And okay, I would now sell my soul to have video of that.
It is in his boot, like so much. And that boy in between takes just whips that fan out and is like fanning himself in the most dramatic, wonderful way while like still having a conversation with someone or like doing something really important and looking freaking fabulous.
Yes.
And it's just,
that's amazing.
And still being masculine somehow. Him like, and I'm like, how do you do that? And it's like,
totally see that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that entirely too much.
He's like this brilliant sort of masculine diva thing that I can't describe. It's just like
I thought the same thing when we were having drinks with him and he had like his punk rock look, going on. He had got the jacket and everything.
And had he had a lace fan with that outfit, it still would have worked.
It would have worked entirely.
Totally. He's like double fisting it with Stellas and Manhattans, and I was just like, "Who the fuck are you? And can we hang out more?"
Yes, Stellas and Manhattans. That's so Toby. Absolutely. He's just sort of this strange kind of juxtaposition of these two different like things.
Yeah. Oh my God. And do I ever relate to that? Yes. No, I get it. That's really cool.
So wait, as much as I could talk about Toby forever. I know. No. He'll love this. I hope you allow me to leave this in because he does listen to our podcast and he's going to love every minute of that.
No, he knows I adore him. He knows
and he knows how we feel about him too. So it's all good. He'll get to just have the treat of the three of us just going on and on.
Everyone feels that way about him.
Feels that way.
I think that's true. Everybody who watches the show definitely does.
Yes.
So that's another thing that comes out a lot in the live tweets is that people just love every second that Jack Rackham is on screen. They love it. Eat it up.
Yes. Yeah. No, people study his face not just for understanding the story, but just because it's impossible not to.
Exactly. And I think too, he's, like Adele, this show is so heavy that he brings in the humor, and no one can deny that they want to see that. And they, it's that breath of fresh air every time he's on screen. What ridiculous thing is he going to say, or what's he going to do?
Right. Or what very earnest thing that will end up being ridiculous in the end.
Yes. Always the most earnest. That's such a good point. Yeah. But that will end up being ridiculous.
So, okay. But the question I have about Max in relation to Jack/Toby is, tell me, I would love to hear your perspective about what the progression of their relationship is. And I find it so fascinating. I think Toby said in his interview, he talked about, or was that just in something he messaged us to say? I don't remember. I think that was a message. That was a message for one of our reps. Yeah. It was about that Jack and Max are kind of always circling each other. And then actually I didn't say this in any of our podcasts, but I'll say it now, is that, Toby said to me, I think it was after the Spanish invasion thing, he said he was like watched again and he was just like, Jack really loves Max.
I think he does.
And I agree. I think he does too. I think it's such an interesting relationship. So I was just very curious what your perspective is on it from Max's side, because I just feel like they go through all these phases. I feel like Max also loves Jack very much, but it's fraught too. So how do you see it?
I think in the beginning, he was totally annoying to her. Like, I think he's, it's like, okay, this is a person that I need to work with to get what I want to get. And I think it's like that relationship develops over time. And I think something happens in that threesome.
Yes.
Where they kind of look at each other for a minute and there's this thing. And though it never comes back, I think it was a thing. Like, it was a thing.
It colored everything from that moment on.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of make eye contact, and it's very much about Anne, but that moment that they have together isn't about Anne. It's like 99.9% of that whole threesome thing is about their relationship with Anne, but then there's that split second where it isn't, and it's them. And I think like that obviously that's just on like the sex side of it, which I'm not saying that's the pivotal moment when everything changed. I don't mean that at all. I just mean that there is an affection there,
Yeah. Didn't Jack say early on too that I don't know what I find more beautiful? It's like your basically your body or your mind. There was something like that.
Yeah, that's what the pearls deal.
Early on, when he was still kind of trying, he was sort of gingerly going around. Exactly. And so, yeah, I think there's that kind of level of attract. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but there's like a underlying sexual chemistry that I think is like, it's not the leader of anything, but it's just like deeply buried in there. And I think that I think at the end of the day, they just really like each other, but I think they approach things really differently. And because they approach conflict differently, that's where they butt heads. And because they're both in love with the same woman, they also butt heads there. While actually at the end of the day, if Anne wasn't in the picture and if Nassau and war and all that wasn't in the picture, they'd probably be like epic friends. They'd probably be friends. I really think that. I really think that they have a lot in common, and they'd like if their lives weren't stressful like that, I think they would get along in a lot of ways,
Sorry, I'm just amused by the idea of their lives not being stressful.
I know.
Sure.
I know. Like, in a perfect universe? World where they just this utopia, I think Max and Rackham would like be drinking like together and having a great time and playing cards and smoking together, and not they were
and Silver too. We've always talked about Silver also and Rackham being able to just have like a good drinking buddy gossip swapping. Yeah. And I can totally see the three of you just going head to head drinks all night long and just falling asleep at the table and waking up just hungover as shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That sounds definitely gossiping, like the three characters who most
everything.
see through everyone else. Yeah.
It would be like
Mapleton lurking in the background.
Totally, Mapleton lurking in the background. It would be like a total mutual respect. Like, I really do. I think that they would just be like the best of friends, and it just circumstances push against that. So I think that's what. I love that you feel that, because I always felt that too. I was like, they freaking like each other, even though they fight constantly. No, I think that they do. I think they care about each other. They just can't say it to each other, but they do.
I think, again, back to Grandma Guthrie in that library, like I do think that moment when Max talks about not having slaves, I mean, I think that was like a huge moment for Jack, that he's suddenly like, wait a minute. So what do you think? Like, so Max tells Anne her backstory, right? In that cave that breaks my heart. And
yes.
The cave of heartbreak.
So sad.
My impression in the library with Grandma Guthrie is that Anne probably never told Jack that. Like, that Jack never knew that Max had grown up enslaved. Yeah.
I don't think Anne and Jack, like, I never really pictured them as like having a lot of conversations.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I think their connection is more isn't through words, it's like this other thing that they have that's like really deep and unbreakable and beautiful.
Just like the twins. Yeah. They have like a soul connection.
Yeah. They have a soul connection that's totally unbreakable. So I don't think they're necessarily sitting and having, big talks about Mac's history and past. So no, I don't think that Jack knew any of that at all until he hears that when we're sitting in the couch with Gam Gams.
You're killing me with that.
I love it. It's so good.
I love that so much. So yeah, I mean, I feel like as much as Jack had love and respect for Max. And I think that really, in my eyes, that's what sealed the deal. That's what made the coalition and the actual personal relationship stronger at that moment. And I think part of it is because Max suddenly reminded him of Vane.
Totally. And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And that moment, you know, when I confront him on the beach and, you know, you think he's going to leave me in the dust, and he, you know, and he should, but he's like, look, are you coming or not? Like, this is your one chance, you know, and in that moment you're like, oh, he likes her.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
yeah.
And your moment of hesitation too. We're just like, yeah, but nope, gotta, yeah. Really, really fantastic. Really fantastic. As though you had a choice, which of course you didn't. And as though you weren't waiting to be invited, which of course you were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. That was a lovely scene.
Oh,
it was
you want
so
me
good.
Oh, okay.
I suppose I could grace you with my presence aboard ship.
If I must.
Yeah, except they're going to bring Flint, and then he's going to want to throw Max overboard afterwards.
I wish they could have worked more with Flint. That would have been amazing.
I know, it's true, huh?
Yeah.
You did no.
We did 2 scenes together, but we never spoke to each other. We were just in scenes together. Yeah, back in season 1, and then in this season, and that when I get kidnapped, and that's the only time we haven't. But you know, because again, that would have been like a acting lesson 101, just watching Toby Stevens thing. So I would love to have worked with him. He's really he's such a special actor.
Did you get to watch him work then, at least, or was it just doing your scenes? And then I always wonder about that, how it works. I've only ever done plays,
right?
So you see everything. You see everything everybody does,
right.
And you see the whole show. You know the whole thing, and so it's crazy to think that these people just step in and do a scene, and then you're out again, and you'll see it for the first time when it airs.
Yeah, I know, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
I didn't see him do a lot. I mean, I definitely was there on some days and watched him. But it's like any set. Like when you're watching them shoot like a tiny little 20-second thing over and over and over and over again, you know, it's like, unfortunately you don't get, like, you know, you'd have to be there for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
I did stick around sometimes to watch them. And I think it's, I guess I want to say I did, but I think my experience is really just watching the show with him in it. I feel like I've seen him in person because his performances are so visceral that you feel them. Yes. I feel like I was there when he was doing it, but I wasn't, and I really wasn't, but I feel like I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And the funnest thing about being there when Toby Stevens is acting, is that as quickly as he goes into like the deepest, darkest, flintiest moment, as soon as they yell cut, he's like making the dumbest, most ridiculous, inappropriate jokes. And he is the like number one on the script, and thank God he's number one on the script. He like sets the tone for everyone on set because his attitude, he takes his job very seriously, but he doesn't take himself seriously at all. And because of that, you know, he can like be in these dark moments and then we're laughing like I'm going to die if he said, like, Toby Stevens is the funniest person I have ever met in real life.
Wow. He
is the funniest. And yeah, I know. It's surprising to think because when he is sort of being serious, he's serious. Yeah. It's honestly, he has made me laugh to the point where I thought I was going to be sick, like in the best way. And he is funny all the time and utterly ridiculous. And I feel like that's why he can go to those dark places, because he has his lightness is so light that his darkness is like so dark, you know?
Duality.
Yeah. He's a joy to work with. Absolute joy.
Wow.
It's a little hard for me to imagine still. You all keep saying this about him.
Well, I keep thinking of him in the little pirate bedtime story thing that I feel like, okay.
Oh, the pirate bedtime story.
Oh, yes. It's God,
we
love
it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, the pirate bedtime story is interesting.
All right, everyone. I'm now putting that in the show notes. I will put a link to the pirate bedtime story.
Yes.
Not for the first time. It will go in the show notes.
You have to. The best thing about Toby is that when he jokes around, he like thinks that he's hilarious and he just like cracks himself up constantly. Oh,
that's great.
He's ridiculous. I know it's really hard to like believe, but he truly is the goofiest person. He's by far the goofiest of all of us, like by far.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I would.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't have guessed. That's fantastic.
We'll choose to believe you until someday, maybe if our dreams come true and he also comes on the podcast, we'll see.
He better come on the podcast. He's just a joy and a delight. I mean, he can get quite serious in interviews sometimes, but when he's just like being himself on a
seriously, which is wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. But when he's just being himself on a daily basis, like he's like a big stupid puppy. He's wonderful. We adore him. He's not the least bit intimidating.
So there's
he's
basically there's a theme here of pirate puppies.
Every single one of them. Like Schmitz is like the regalist and the most grown up of the.
So he's
a
collie. Let's say he could be a collie.
He's a what?
He could be a collie.
Exactly.
Collie. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that, and I always see him like as a greyhound,
There you go. I was gonna say,
yeah, even better.
I was even thinking a standard poodle, if that's not too bad to say, right?
And a fox.
He's very well coiffed, something fox-like.
Yeah,
sure.
Toby's supposed to come back on the podcast. Don't ruin it.
He can give me shit all he wants. That's okay.
It really is. And then Zach is like the pit bull, and I'd say Toby Stevens is like a Rottweiler or a golden retriever or like what's the one? What's Beethoven? Like a Saint Bernard. Like
Saint Bernard.
actually can be scary when they want to be, but are really just like love fluffy snuggly.
All right, you have to do the rest then.
Luke Arnold. God. Luke Arnold is that's really hard. Luke Arnold might be more of a cat.
Oh, yeah, that actually totally works for me.
Yeah. Arnold might be more of a feline than a dog. He would kill me. He's going to listen to this and be like, Jess. I can't think of what kind of dog Luke would be. I feel
a blue healer for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway.
Healer? I think he's a cat. I think he's some kind of cat. Yeah. A serval or something. I don't know.
I like it. No, I actually like it.
And then Stone is like a French bulldog or like a pug or something.
Pug. Definitely a pug. Love it.
All right. Another person that you never ever worked with, but I always joke about wanting you all to run the world together is Max and Maddie. That's actually, I always wanted Max and Maddie to just take over, because Max would have the strategy and Maddie would have the deep moral core, although Max has that too, but in a different way, kind of the revolutionary version of that. Yeah,
Maddie's like the lion, you know what I mean? Like the courageous lion, like the loyalty, and she's Zaytu is crazy talented and it's so good in that role, and is like this sister I never had but wanted, and I just they would do amazing things together. I totally agree with you. I would have loved to have had an opportunity to work with her because she's really brilliant and the character's great.
Well, and I think also thematically it's really interesting because we were introduced to Maddie and the Maroon Camp and that whole aspect of that world, which I'm so pleased that they brought into it because of the history. And it's interesting because it was in a very similar time frame of when we get Max's backstory. Mm-hmm. But it's dealt with so differently. And I just think that's really, really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think it's telling about Max. In my opinion, it's very telling about Max, that Max does. She tells Anne, and then she begrudgingly talks about it with what are we calling her? Gam Gam? What are we calling Grandma Guthrie?
Gam Gam.
But I just think it's so interesting. That juxtaposition is super interesting because you have Maddie, who didn't grow up in slavery, who's just, all, wanting to fight from outside of civilization. And then Max, who, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, do you feel like Max has shame about her backstory, or she just wants it to be irrelevant, or she's deciding to make it be irrelevant? I mean, kind of like what Silver's saying he's doing near the end. Is that what Max is doing? Do you feel like that she's ashamed of it, or she just...
I don't think she's ashamed at all. I think she just doesn't want it to define her. And I don't think she wants people to feel sorry for her. There's that scene in season 3 when Anne and I go to give the pearls to that gross guy that's getting the double hand job, blow job
gross
thing.
Beach guy, right?
Yeah. he refers to me in a derogatory term,
Yes.
and wants to chop his head off, and I'm like, don't. It's not the time or the place. I think it's just, it's interesting because I was always like, why doesn't she defend herself, or like, why doesn't she let him defend herself? And I think it's a matter with Max. It's always like a time and a place,
Yes.
and when is it the prudent thing to do? We don't want to sabotage this deal, so that's why she doesn't do it in that moment. It's not the right time to do it. But no, I don't think there's any shame associated with it. I think she doesn't want to be defined by it. She doesn't want people to feel sorry for her because of it, or ever say to her, oh wow, this girl's done really well for a slave girl. I think it's just a matter of the association being cut off. Like, a lot of people, I think, want to be defined by their past. I don't think Max is that kind of person. She doesn't want to be defined by her past. The crap that's happened to her, she is like, that's done, that's done. It's over. We're moving on. And whether it be a horrible breakup with Eleanor or what's happened to her as a child, and I think another thing too is I think it's really hard for her to talk about because it was awful and hard. And I think she probably just really doesn't like talking about it. On top of that, more thing is, it's not a part of her life that she wants to relive, and it's very private to her. So I think that's why she's not a revolutionary on that front. She doesn't have a message to give to the world, it's all very subtly. It's like, well, look at me, look at my skin color, look at this, make your own associations, know that I'm doing well. But I'm not going to necessarily sit down and instigate a conversation with you about my history and my past. And, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I mean, it is interesting, actually, in the context of Silver not giving his backstory just now. Like, that we and our listeners have all just watched that episode and watched Silver not give his backstory and refuse to be defined by it. Like, talk about that. Like, this is now another parallel between Max and Silver.
That's a really good point. Yeah, very much so. Really cool.
Right. In the context of people like Jack and like Flint, who like insist on seeing their lives as a story, as
right. Yeah. And it's their kind of, I think it's, I don't know, I wonder if it's because they're narcissists, but then I always thought of kind of as Long John Silver as a bit of a narcissist though. So I wonder what the difference is.
That's interesting. I don't know if I see. I mean, Max is definitely not a narcissist. Max exists by serving other people's needs.
Yeah.
I think Silver is the same. I think Silver is the same. I think he is a manipulator.
Yeah.
But I think that his tools are the tools of understanding other people and serving them.
Right. It's not about like, I guess I think what it is with him is that he's selfish. He's not necessarily narcissistic. Sure. He's selfish. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I feel like
that's very different. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Flint is definitely a narcissist. He needs so much for it all. Right. Like he needs for it to. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jack.
Oh, definitely a narcissist. Right. And the difference between them is that Flint, I think, thinks that he tells himself the story that he's serving others when he's serving himself.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, I wonder if Eleanor's character in a way is like a narcissist that has no idea that she's narcissistic, That is a relationship that I always had a hard time with after the breakup. When Eleanor came back into Max's life, I so wanted Max to like shut it down and shut her out,
Oh, did you?
Yeah, really did. On a personal level, I was like, no, because I thought it was such a betrayal, and I thought Eleanor made such a stupid mistake. Like, as a viewer, as an audience member, I was should run away together. Like, dude, why are you picking Nassau over? Like, why is your identity in this place? This is so ridiculous. So I think I was like hurt for Max. So when Eleanor kind of gets taken away and then pops back into town, I really struggled with like, Dan and John and Robert saying like, oh, you guys are going to have to work together and you're going to be cordial together. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And I think instinctively there was always a snappiness that I had, like this tension when I would work with her in the scenes. And and our directors and having John and Dan around a lot were like, no, like pull it back. Like you have to. Max is smarter than that. She's smarter than that, and she knows she needs to put her feelings to the side and work together. Otherwise, these women won't be like. And that's the other thing too. When that first happens and Maddie isn't around, and it doesn't even matter about Maddie because Max doesn't have a relationship with her, but they're Eleanor is the only other woman that Max can really rely on in that way, because Anne's kind of off doing her own thing and her own whatever, and for all intents and purposes she's like the pirate woman. And I think Eleanor, they need each other, and I think once I understood that, I was like, oh, Max needs Eleanor. And that they once I realized that trust was there, I was like, oh, okay, this relationship is making sense to me now. But I did, as a viewer, I kind of wanted to fight it, and I was like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that they're working together. But I understood, and that's why Max and I are different. I understood, that perspective later of why it was important. And when you rewatch the episodes, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on now. It's funny when you're playing something and you're like, this is right, this feels wrong, it feels funny, but then you watch it later and you're like, oh, I totally understand what the writers were doing now. I totally get it. I just have so much faith in them as writers that they knew what they were doing, and I'm so glad they wrote it that way. I love that Max and end up becoming allies again.
It's amazing. Well, and then, and Where You All Take It in season 4 is just incredible.
Yeah, other level.
I never thought that they were going to bring Max and Eleanor together to actually talk about the beginning. I think it was you, actually, like John or one of them said something during New York Comic Con during the panel, and everyone said something very vague, like, oh, well, they're going to deal with their stuff.
Right.
And everyone freaked out. And then I think it was you who were like, yeah, they didn't actually just tell you anything. Yeah. And yet they totally did that thing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad they did, because it was a conversation that needed to happen, I think it was like, there's no closure. There is no closure here.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's what I struggled with, is that lack of closure, and I'm glad that Max kind of got that for herself, and I'm glad that they talked that through, even though it wasn't a big, long, thing. It was just sort of, this is what it is. And
but it's huge.
And, it was big. It was a big deal.
Well, and it also laid the groundwork for Max doing the same thing with Anne. I mean, not the same thing, a different thing with Anne, but also about apologizing, about taking responsibility.
Yes.
And we've talked about that scene, but that whole progression of Max talking about what she learned from Eleanor at the different stages.
Yes.
It's beautiful and completely heartbreaking. But I felt like that apology that Eleanor gave Max is part of that process. That she also taught me how to apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's like one of those things that's like being in love. Just because you're in love doesn't mean it's necessarily the right relationship, and I think that's kind of what Eleanor and Max had. There was a lot of love there, but it wasn't enough. And, I really believe that Eleanor's relationship with Woods Rogers is what it's supposed to be. Like, that's her person. And I really, really think that, I really do. Because they're both kind of...
I disagree a little.
I just think that they're both fucked up together.
That's true.
And it kind of works because of that, I think. And I think I really decided that I think it's season 3 when they're in bed together. They have that scene, and it's like the first time you see Eleanor really vulnerable. And I was like, yep. Oh, that's, and I guess that's what I mean. She's with someone that she can be vulnerable with. She doesn't have those walls up, and that's not.
She was still paying for Max. That was
exactly, and she never got that from Vane, because it's sort of like a, that was just sort of one of those things, that sexy hot relationship you have that is wrong, but you do it anyways, and so I think for me, I saw Eleanor kind of grow up in a way when she went into that relationship.
Yes, I agree.
Rogers is
no, I totally agree. And season 3, Eleanor and Rogers is lovely. It's just season 4 kind of toss that out the window.
Kind of goes insane. Yeah, exactly. And he gets pretty horrific.
Pretty horrific. It's true. Yeah.
But I'm still heartbroken.
Me too.
heartbroken for them that it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Like devastating.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Despite the fact that he just did the most awful things like that, I was like, that was, and the torment that he goes through when her body comes and everything is just like, oh my God. So, it's rough.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Rough
it is
and
definitely. So yeah, and the other thing that Hannah and I talked about is, again, I know I keep going back to that library, but in that library, like what an amazing thing, or an amazing, tragic, heartbreaking, like a million emotions kind of thing for Max to be in, not only in the house of Eleanor's family, but to be looking at, you know, the woman, not only the woman that Max could relate to so much herself, but the woman who would have been a potential in an alternate universe. It had the potential of what Eleanor could have been. Yeah,
it's very, very true. And I think in Max, and maybe that's exactly what you're saying, like there's this like, this is the granddaughter that I, there's a connection between those women. I mean, it's so important that Max meets her just for her overall general growth, I guess.
Right.
Well, and for Max to have family, for Max to actually have a person with whom she can identify and who values her for the person that she is. Like, I feel like that's something Max always deserved and didn't quite get.
Who sees
ever.
How smart and capable that she is and doesn't make her prove it. Like, sees the evidence for it already.
Yeah, really, really early on, you know? Yes. Yeah, because she's a good judge of character.
Immediately.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. And can see, you know, just like kind of writes off Rackham right away.
Yeah, does she speak?
Oh, poor Jack.
He has it coming.
I always have sympathy for Jack.
I know. This year, the scenes where he's like battling on the ship and he's not a fighter. He's doing the best he can, like really hard to watch because he plays it so well. Like you just feel for him because you're watching someone struggle for their life and try to be this thing that they don't really fit into. And I found all of that got really was like hard on my heart watching that. You know, you just like feel, you just want to like take them and like bundle them up and be like, let me feed you and let me take care of you. And here's a bunch of books and a library and just go enjoy yourself. Stop trying to be a pirate.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, go design banners and
exactly. You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight. You know, just because you're fans doesn't mean you have to fight.
Oh God, you're breaking my heart. Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I know we can't talk about the last episode.
Are you gonna watch it on the second when it airs? That's when you're gonna watch it.
No, because we gotta do our podcast.
We're gonna record about it.
Yeah.
Right before, of course.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But I've got another show. I'm doing Disney Villain Deathmatch, so I have to watch Little Mermaid and The Black Cauldron today. Also, so I have to watch like 2 Disney movies and record about them tomorrow.
What's that?
Exactly. I don't know. Like this forgotten Disney movie that I never watched.
Something that somebody else put on a list.
Right. Yeah.
Mermaid is obviously going to.
Whoever it is, Ursula. Hello. I know. Ursula is like one of my top picks. Ursula, Maleficent, Mother Gothel. Like these are the ones who are going to the finish line. So we'll see.
Ursula's terrifying. Little shrimps out of mermaid. It's awful. Little shrimps.
She absolutely, to get ahead. And she's so self-possessed and capable and unapologetic. And she's truly villainous.
Very villainous. Yeah.
Sorry. I went off on a tangent, but yes.
What tangent? Keep that in for sure.
So much fun talking to you.
I'm like, if you ever want to do another one, just give me a shout. I'd be happy to. Not that there's really more to come, but you know what I mean.
Hey, Hannah offered to come back on. Maybe we'll just have to have the 4 of us drinking wine and talking to each other.
That would be totally lovely.
That would be pretty lovely, actually. Be into that.
Let's do that.
So glad I finally got to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for loving the show and being so excited about it and having this podcast. It's like. It's the coolest to have people invest in something that I've invested so much of my life in this. So it's so nice to have people enjoy it, and you guys are lovely. So thank you so much.
We love the work you've done on the show. We really do. We have from the beginning.
We really, really do.
I'm so glad. Yeah. It's too bad that this show isn't more mainstream popular. I'm hoping that in the future it will be, because I really do think it's one of the best shows on television, and so many people are missing it.
Yes.
It's like I want people to watch it. I'm so proud to be a part of it.
We completely agree. Obviously.
Yeah. Yes. I actually think it is the best show on television, period. No question. But yes, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. It has really been something I've wanted to do for ages.
Hey.
Thank you so much. Yes, you're lovely and delightful, as we knew you would be.
No, so are you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Yeah. Bye-bye, sugar. Deep is a Common Room radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag FathomsDeep and follow us on Twitter at BlackSalesCast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening.
There you go. Wait, I had another question. I'm trying to think of questions. Sorry. Usually,
that's okay. You can hold that pose for a little longer if you like.
Yeah. No, it's fine. We both thought you were frozen.
It's like, nope, but she's just...
That's my special thinking pose.
That's amazing.
That's my special thinking pose.
It was very still. It was very still.
Uh-huh. 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 Uh-huh.